Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm doing this little video to tell you there's actually not going to be a video. And you're like, I'm sorry, what? I'm watching you do a video right now, fool. Yeah, this isn't going to be like my normal videos where I'm probably a lot more energetic. I know I'm a lot more energetic. I'm a lot more prepared. When I put a video together, there's a lot of work behind the scenes before I even hit record, and then I know there's going to be a lot of work ahead of time with editing and how I like things to sound and look and put together for you. I do not have the luxury of time this week, and I'm going to get a little bit more real with you guys. This isn't going to be a very makeup heavy video, but even though you see me putting on some makeup now, I'm going to be doing like a get ready with me while I kind of just tell you about what's happened this past week. And I don't know how the algorithm is even going to push this on YouTube, if at all. No one may ever see it. It may be in a void because it's going to be such a veer left from what I normally do. But as many of the world has figured out and seen now, we just had a massive hurricane come through Florida, and I just moved to the exact area that this hurricane was originally aimed at. So I did not have time to put together an entire like eyeshadow palette video or beauty or lifestyle. So I'm just gonna sit here with you and kind of let you know what the heck's gone on this past week with me. I have my morning coffee. As a lot of you guys know, I love to, have chatty talks with my friends with a beverage, sometimes a snack. Grab whatever you want. It has been a long week, so if you are going to grab something a little bit harder than a coffee, I wouldn't blame you, especially if you are in my area or in the area that now the hurricane has reformed and going towards you, because I've had a lot of people messaging me over this past week. So just kind of thought I've documented actually a lot of our preparation, because if you don't know, we just moved to the area that the hurricane was aimed at, the Tampa Bay area in St. Petersburg. And I just don't want to spend a lot of time editing this, cropping out the in-between talks too much, because the way I process stress and trauma, I have definitely learned, is through creativity. So when things started looking really scary and like things were going to be coming at my new home, we were trying to figure out how to evacuate, when to evacuate, I pulled out my camera. I wasn't always talking during it because I just wanted to catch the footage. I wanted to process this the best way I know how to do, and that's through what I do here. I love being creative, so I was capturing videos, trying to explain things as they were coming, but I know this isn't going to be some smooth vlog style documentary moment on the internet that maybe other people will put out. This is just my personal experience. So if you want to see what it was like being at where the eye of the hurricane was supposed to come and then what had happened later, because I think there's a lot of confusion from people that maybe don't deal with hurricanes as to what happened and why people weren't prepared for where it did make landfall. Come hang out. I'm going to be doing my makeup while I talk to you guys, and yeah, that's what we're going to do. I'm not going to overthink this too much. I'm just going to be here with you, and cheers. Let's jump in. Like I said, this is not going to be a makeup like focused video, so I may not mention all of the products, but I am putting on a smooth pore filling primer. But I do realize people that don't watch beauty channels may get this video aimed at them, may not. I don't even know what YouTube's going to do with this on my channel. The way that a lot of this actually kind of started was there was some movement in the Gulf that was low down under Cuba that at first we weren't sure was going to do anything. And if you are not familiar with hurricanes or how they function, which I'm a transplant. I only moved to Florida 4 years ago, so I had to do a lot of learning too. So I realized not a lot of people outside of areas that get hit with certain types of natural disasters would even know how this plays out. So it is a little confusing, I know, because you're like, hurricanes, they're coming. Why weren't people that were hit with this devastation evacuated? Well, are these just Florida man type people that think they're too strong for it? Because I've seen the memes. Yeah, I know people are like, oh, Florida people, a hurricane comes, we're warriors, we're not scared. But gets below 50 degrees and we're dying. Because, yeah, I mean, there's definitely that vibe here. But this was not that for the majority, I would say. We knew that there was some movement, but I've explained this a little bit on my Instagram, and if you don't follow me there and you're interested, you can follow me right here. What actually had happened was they have models to try to predict where storms go. That's, kind of where we are in the world of this instant gratification that a lot of us have grown up with, that we're like, oh, we know that a thunderstorm is coming through here, a hurricane's coming through here. But there are certain devastations you really can't plan for. Tornadoes. A lot of my friends from the Midwest totally understand, because I'm from the Midwest. Tornadoes can pop up out of nowhere and be devastating. So it's not exactly something like that, because you could see it coming. The thing about a hurricane is there is something called, what I have learned, the spaghetti model, because there's a lot of different, what do I want to call them? And normal Floridians are going to be like, Nicole, this is so easy, just explain it. I'm still, going through it myself. By the way, I have been testing the new Patrick Ta Cream Foundation and Finishing Powder Duo. I am loving it. There's a lot of different reports from a lot of different places. The Euro, from Europe, had an entirely different model than anything that the US or anybody else was projecting. They were projecting landfall in the middle of Florida, whereas all of the other models had this hurricane out into the sea, up into the bay, going up maybe to the panhandle of Florida. We did not know right away where this was going to go, and it took days. So when people were calling us saying, hey, there's a hurricane coming, like even my own mom was calling me going, is it coming to you? I'm getting conflicting things. I was like, we here are getting conflicting things. So it's totally normal that you'd be going, are you going to be okay? Are you not going to be okay? What's happening? Because here at ground zero, ground whatever we're at, we don't know either. At the same time, y'all don't if you're following it. If you can hear a bone in there, Cooper is chewing on a bone right now. That's all the gnawing you may hear. He's stress eating. It's understandable. He's been through a lot this past week. So the best you can do when you know that there's a hurricane potentially coming is to, start thinking of preparing. And since we've lived in Florida for 4 years, we already have, especially come hurricane season, which is from the beginning of summer through about November, we already have stuff on hand pretty much at all times. Backup batteries, backup battery banks that just need to be charged, flashlights, canned food, water. It just kind of depends on what's going on, what time of year we're in. But for the most part, we always have that on hand. But depending on what's going on, you may want more supplies. You always want to make sure also you have gas. We don't have a generator yet. We just bought this house 4 months ago. That's definitely on our list of just things to feel a little security, but they are expensive. So it's not like you could just, when you hear one's coming, you just can't be like, oh, let me just go drop a couple grand on this. Because it's a lot, but also we don't know how to work one. I'm going to have to learn those things. And the reality is when emotions go up, when you're like, oh, something could be coming that could be devastating, logic goes down. That's a very normal thing in human nature. When emotions go up, logic goes down. Think about the last time you were in an argument and then later you were like, oh, I wish I would have said this. I wish I would have said that. It's because your emotions are high. You can't really think. So it gets to be really stressful when you're like, oh, I need to learn how to do a generator on my house so I don't murder my family in the middle of this, because that has happened obviously in the past for people trying to save themselves from devastation and maybe not have power. That's another thing. We were hearing that you will absolutely lose power if and when this comes to you. So you're also trying to plan ahead for living in Florida where it's still in the 80s, some days low 90s, to be like, I'm not going to have power. How do I plan ahead for this? So I did as much reading as I could when I knew we still had days to play with, not knowing where it was going to go. And I started doing the most I could, because anxiety is also a secret weapon to do the most of you that you can. For example, I was literally like, I'm washing every single thing in this house. I'm washing all of our clothes. Should we lose power for 2 weeks straight, I'm going to wash all of our bedding. If we don't have air conditioning, you're going to start to smell a stench. So I was washing all of the dog bedding, all the dog blankets, regular clothes, work clothes. Adam was cooking all of the meats and foods that we had in our refrigerator so we would have some foods. I was also packing up with water bottles in our freezer to be able to then move them to our fridge to keep things cooler longer, and packing the fridge with cans of water that we already had to be able to keep things as cool as possible. I mean, we were trying to think 10 steps ahead Yes, I was a Girl Scout as a child. I always joke about that, just to try to be as prepared as possible, honestly. We sandbagged, we got water in the tub and water in a cooler should we not be able to flush for a while or be able to bathe or be able to brush teeth. So we were just doing the most we could. It is the end of September right now, and we are under a very, very serious hurricane warning. Not a watch, but a warning. It's not actually scheduled to be here for a couple of days, and coming from the Midwest, I am so unfamiliar with, well, I was unfamiliar. I moved here 4 years ago. I was so unfamiliar with how the whole hurricane thing worked, because it's like, a great way to think about it is actually like a hurricane is like being stalked by a turtle. It is super slow. You know it's coming, but you have no idea which way it's going to go. And it's progressively at this moment, 2 days out, 2.5 days out, looking like it's going to be pretty close to us and maybe over the top of us. So Adam and I are preparing for the worst, but hoping for the best. Our new house, it's okay, Penny. Let me get her thunder shirt on. Let's get your thunder shirt on. Come here. I have lovingly called everything we're doing right now Operation FUEN, which is the hurricane name, coming up with all of the things we're doing tonight, things to purchase, things to do the day of. I have been prepped. But it's one of those situations where you don't know what's really going to happen, and you really won't know until the day of. So we are just preparing as best we can. The good news is I'm sitting in my bathroom with Penny because this is where she feels safe right now. So when you hear the ceiling fan, that's what's going on. Sorry. The good news is we made sure when we were buying a house that we bought one in flood zone X, which means we, won't be flooded. We also are apparently in a non-evacuation area, which means we're not in a surge area, which is a good thing. We're not in an area where water will surge. So we're not going to be evacuated for that. We can evacuate whenever we want if we choose to. We're just trying to figure out what to do. And we weren't even supposed to get any rain today, and now thunder's going off and scaring the bejesus out of my little girl. Oops, come here, honey. I'm currently using our fabulous new fridge and freezer to freeze a bunch of water to be able to keep our refrigerator, ooh, thunder's going, as cool as we possibly can. I've been charging all of the things. Cooper is doing a fabulous job of being a very good boy. It's going to be loud in here because I have sound machines going for Penny, but I am washing all of the bedding. I just got these fresh sheets and pillowcases on. Yes, nothing matches right now, but that is okay because that is not the problem right now. I also just washed all of our clothes, and I'm trying to think. I've also just done like a layout, like a video. I've done a lot of photos also of our home inside and outside, just for insurance purposes, should we need them. Hopefully we will not. So yes, we are currently prepping for our very first very serious hurricane, which is kind of stressful, but we're doing the best we can. Adam is tidying up and moving things from the garage into our storage shed. We bought some sandbags. We're not like close to surging, and I just told you that, but it doesn't change the fact that we're gonna get a ton of rain, and we know that our new garage does get a little bit of flooding. So we're just trying to be as like proactive and preventative as we can, and kind of just coming up with escape routes, evacuation plans if we want to. We have good windows. I know people have been asking me and messaging me on Instagram, and thank you guys so much for caring. If we have shutters, we have double and triple paned windows. We've only lived here for 4 months, so we're not sure their strength as far as like impact goes. And the house didn't have shutters. So, I think the front one does have shutters, but it doesn't go all the way down. So that'll be something that we definitely are gonna be learning from out of this experience. And right now we're just hoping for the best. I don't even want to know what, it's definitely been upgraded to a hurricane. We just don't know if it's a 2 or a 3 yet, but also we're so a couple of days away that things are still going to change. So that's the hard part about a hurricane, is it will change on a dime. So you're going to be in the future, so you'll know the outcome. But right now we're just doing the best we can with planning for water, planning for not having electricity, and planning other places to go if we need to right now. So We have two identical backup batteries that can charge our phones, charge kind of almost anything. So we have two of these and they are fully charged. Backup light, backup lantern, candles are in there and I have those prepared. We have a fan in the garage that's run by battery, and I have another little lamp in here that actually is very bright should we need it. My biggest concern is, because we're out of the surging area for water, is high winds, trees falling, things like that. So, whew. And it's going to be coming over a long progression of time. This is what preparedness looks like. This is a full bottle of water should we lose water to be able to brush our teeth. And I'm going to show you all the other water we have. We're going to be filling the tub. And don't worry, we have plenty of water. We have a water dispenser that we bought as soon as we moved in, so we just have a restock of our water, some sand in case we need it, and Adam has been cleaning up. So we did a lot of prep, and I ended up filming a lot of footage through that, mostly because, again, I process stress and trauma and things that make me feel uncomfortable best through creative things. So I was like, I'm gonna vlog this, even if I don't put it on the internets. I just want to do something for a creative outlet for my own sanity right now, honestly. And then even 2 days out, we still didn't know where was this going to go. We had some models really aiming it at us, and that's why we were taking this super duper seriously, because no harm in hedging your bets. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a big believer in just taking care of what you can, and then also trying to let go of what you can't control, because I have a very strong tendency to want to control things that I cannot control. Am I alone in this? Because it's I feel like human nature sometimes, because you want to be safe. We pretty much learned that the Euro model was more accurate than the US model, than any of the other models, that it was going to be making landfall over the top of us. And really close to. So we were just looking at all of the news outlets that were local as possible. So I understand most people that are maybe seeing this, you may not have even watched any news on it. That was more national. We were seeing things that were way more localized. So I don't know what was being said on a national platform, and I'm starting to think that there wasn't as much information given nationally. It's just like, oh no, a devastating hurricane is coming to Florida, and the Floridians are doing this and that. I think there's been a lot of misunderstandings about how this particular storm worked out. Because sometimes you can know exactly where it's going to go, and that has happened a decent amount of times since I've lived here. You know it's going to stay out in the ocean. You know it's going to maybe go up through the panhandle. Hopefully by the time it lands, it'll be a Cat 1 or down to a tropical storm versus anything larger. Now, there is some folklore in the Tampa Bay area that I feel like is important to add in here. There is a little bit of, it's Halloween almost. I mean, we're right at October, so I'm going to be telling you, oh yes, and today is also the day Hocus Pocus 2 is dropping. So this spooky season has begun. I feel like giving you the Tampa Bay folklore is totally on brand with what's going on. Okay, so just roll with me on this. As soon as we moved to Florida 4 years ago, I kept hearing from people, don't worry, Tampa Bay is on ancient Indian burial ground, and we are protected from hurricanes, because a hurricane has not hit the Tampa Bay area in over 100 years. And there is actually a lot of articles explaining this. Is this Florida man for all of y'all that don't care about any of this folklore, and you're like, you think you have magic in your lands, Florida? You know, Salem thinks it, why can't we? And I always heard this, but we just had a pandemic that we haven't had in 100 years, so I was like, I don't care. I have lived through enough historical events these past few years that I know. I was like, I'm not gonna just hope and be on a prayer that because of where we're positioned, maybe where the waters are, maybe where the winds go, maybe the structure of the St. Pete, Tampa Bay area, maybe we'll be safe. I was not going to bank on that. But I was hopeful. Of course I was hopeful. But because we have not been hit in over 100 years, just like think of how we just went through a pandemic that we haven't had for 100 years. We weren't prepared, didn't know but we knew it was always a possibility, especially with hurricanes, a little less the pandemic correlation, so we'll drop it there. But we always took hurricane warnings seriously. At least my husband and I and the people that I associate with, you know. But there are always, you know, the people that grew up here that are like, oh, you know, we get this all the time. So it does take a lot longer to make some people believe that a hurricane is coming, because they did have Irma just a few years ago, and it was scheduled after a lot of what they call a spaghetti model. So I was telling you about how there's a Euro tracker and then a US tracker, and then other places have their own trackers. We call those spaghetti models. You throw them on a map and it looks like a bunch of noodles all over the place because you don't know where it's going to go. And Floridians are very familiar with this spaghetti model. So there is a lot of like, oh, this track says so-and-so is going to get hit. Oh, but this track says I'm going to get hit. So there's so much uncertainty with hurricanes because Mother Nature does what that woman wants to do, okay? She's having a hot flash. She's doing her thing. We have no control over her moods, obviously. So that becomes part of the equation too, that a lot of people may not know when they're like, oh, Floridians are so dumb. They can't count because they can't have elections properly because they got to get recounts. There's Florida man running rampant, all of the, you know, memes and jokes about why Florida is the way Florida is. And again, I'm not from here, so I don't have any, you know, dog in this fight about trying to change the representation of the state. I'm just saying I can see now, after living here for 4 years, why they're like, okay, they say a hurricane's coming, but let's let the play develop a little bit here. Because truly, you don't know what you don't know, and you're getting these models telling you it could go any which way at any time. And you're like, that's not helpful. So we're 2 days out, we still don't know. Where's this going? We're preparing as best we can because we grew up in the Midwest and we had thunderstorms that were massive and crazy that we knew that could like have tornadoes and stuff. So we were always just like, we're gonna plan it out. And that's what we did. And then we found out more than likely the Euro track was accurate, saying it was going to be coming through the Tampa Bay area. So that's when what we have here in Florida is called, you're starting to be notified of mandatory evacuations. And it's not just like this mass hysteria that you see in movies and stuff of when people are evacuating. It is by zones. So the way that it works, if you don't have zones where you live for natural disasters, and we are on the coast, so that is another factor of living on the coast. There's zones A, B, C, D, and E. A is going to be the ones that are the closest to the water. The biggest thing you're concerned about is surging waters. That's what you're scared of the most, because the rule of thumb is you run from the water, hide from the wind. Water is devastating. Wind, you can hunker down with. But everything is still scary, and you should always be prepared and do what you can. Zone B is the next closest for elevations, and they have a model on like how high the surging could get. So it kind of goes through A through E. We just bought a house that is in a no flood zone, so it's flood zone X, and a non-evac area because we're a little further inland and we're high enough up where our home is. So that gives some comfort knowing, you know, the waters couldn't really reach here, but at the same time, a hurricane is a hurricane, and if it comes straight through here, we're talking devastation. So we had made a plan of where we were going to evacuate. It was going to be much further inland over towards a Tampa area where we have some family. That was going to be our game plan, but we also had, that was game plan A, but we also had B and C because we had friends on the opposite sides of the state in Miami and in Fort Lauderdale saying, you can come here. And so we were like, okay, so now we know if we get a little bit more information of where's this headed, we're going to evacuate maybe further down so we are on the opposite side of the state from this thing, which sounds good, right? In theory? Yeah, a lot of people thought so too. A lot of people that were told to evacuate in A, B, and C, I don't think D was ever initiated before it was found out where it was going, they evacuated. A lot of people, I've got some friends that went down to Boca. I've got some friends that went over to Orlando because this was supposed to kind of come up and over into Tampa, and then it was going to maybe stay along the coast. There was still some uncertainty once it hit landfall because that can shift things. It is September 27th. I filmed some clips yesterday on my phone, just kind of giving you guys a little update. It is the next day, and we are tracking Hurricane Ian. And it's one of those things where we're like, what else can we do? So we're gonna try potentially to board up our windows. It's hard because Adam is 45 minutes away at work, and getting to stores and stuff and being able to get supplies has been crazy because everybody is trying to figure out what to do because the storm is shifting all over the place at this point. We don't have a big enough car or truck to get the big sheets of plywood that Adam saw at the store closer to his work. So we actually have a neighbor friend whose dad has a truck, and he's going to try to drive all the way over here, hoping we can get some boards to board up our windows. They're coming later this afternoon, so I'm trying to hustle out some work, honestly, and messaging everybody like, hey, I'm about to be without power over the next few days. I don't even know what to anticipate. We're just doing the best we can. We have been prepping a lot, cleaning everything, washing everything, doing all of the laundry. I actually have to go switch those now that I'm thinking about it. Dishes are next, just to kind of knock them all out. And I think Adam's gonna come home a little early. He works in medical, so he doesn't really have the opportunity to just like be done with work until he can. And then we're gonna try to board up some windows. I've been cataloging all of our things, pictures, and inside and outside of our house. Adam was cleaning up the garage last night, trying to get everything up off the floor. And yes, that's our old couch over there. But everything else that was like important, like, you know, obviously the golf clubs and an extra AC are all up on top of this. Granted, we may not have air for that, or we may not have electricity for that, so that's not like a prep thing, but it's good to have an extra AC when you live in Florida. So now I'm gonna finish up some laundry. We have taken out all of our trash. We have done, I mean, how many loads of laundry did I do yesterday? 7, 8, because I wanted to do all of the bed linens, all of the clothes that needed to be done. Dog bedding, anything that can smell when you don't have air conditioning because there's no circulation or ceiling fans. I've been washing everything. And you know my husband used this as an opportunity to charge up all of his backup batteries, all of the, you know, reserves. And we figured out the spot in our house that would be most safe to be in. Our hallway here has no windows. What we would essentially do is close off the bedroom door, the office door, and the bathroom door, because as you can see it has a window. And then we would be in this room or this space, just kind of like being in here where no windows or anything could, like, this would be the most secure spot because we don't have basements in Florida. But last night Adam pulled out all of his backup batteries because we do have one battery fan, and then he has all of these fancy things in here that'll keep us with some electricity should we lose power. Again, they did not do a very good job looking. Don't look at these floors. They did not do a good job of taking care of these floors, the last owner, so we're going to be stripping all of these, doing all kinds of stuff to these floors. Don't look at the floor. I'm just showing you our preparedness for a hurricane right now. What I'm not going to be prepared for is if we lose power and our evacuation plan loses power. What's going to suck is the heat. Luckily, it is the end of September, so it's not like as ungodly hot as it could be. But a tip to turn your AC and your refrigerator and freezer down to lower than you normally would. I'm actually thinking about lowering this even a bit more tonight, maybe, just to be able to get ahead of it all. So there is that. We're just doing the best we can, and I'm trying to kind of like give all my work people a heads up because they're mostly in the Midwest and in Texas, and Texas is pretty used to hurricane things. But I'm like, guys, ooh, I look a wreck. Guys, I'm not gonna have power, so tell me what you need from me. So we're just doing the best we can to get prepared for Hurricane Ian. It is looking very ominous and very, very gray. The winds pick up every now and again. So just getting the kids outside to go potty while we can before it's gonna be a lot of rain, and it's gonna be a long, slow storm. It's gonna take us days to get through this apparently. So we're just doing the best we can. We just got a notification that we need to shelter in place by midnight tonight because it's going to be a long storm. really long storm. Starts tomorrow morning. The hard stuff hits Thursday morning. Okay, so tomorrow morning is Wednesday morning, and that's when stuff is going to start coming. But the landfall of the hurricane, I think, starts Thursday morning. Okay, so I'm washing probably the millionth load, but I also wanted to give a tip, because the thing is if you lose power, your house is not going to have circulation, so you want everything to be as fresh as possible. And we found a local company that we love that does like soaps, but they also do laundry soaps, and you could get your laundry soap scented, and this smells so good. I wish I had smell-o-vision so you could smell this. I'm washing all of our sheets, all of our blankets, all of our clothes with this, so that way if there is no circulation for a few days, everything is still going to smell not only clean but nice. So that is what I'm doing. You only use 2 scoops, but I only have little scoops. Washing some blankets and dog beds. The model is shifting. This is why hurricanes are crazy, because now all of a sudden it has shifted. My hair's insane. It knows that the weather's acting up. South and east, and it just keeps going more and more that way as of this moment. So we're just trying to keep on top of the news, and Adam's done so much cooking, I've done so much cleaning, we've done so much organizing, getting all the water going. We're still preparing for any storms or anything that's going to shift, because as we have seen, it shifts one way and then it could shift back. So we're just, oh please, oh please, oh please. They say the Tampa Bay area is on ancient Indian burial grounds. Don't roll your eyes. It has worked for us for 100 years. We are rolling with this right now. We are rolling with this. Oh my gosh. I don't think we've gotten a full night's sleep during this whole thing. So I'm probably going to wish I would have thought to say something through this process. So bear with me. I was trying to work. Adam was trying to work. So we got hardly any sleep. We're prepping for the hurricane. And then overnight, the model shifts. We find out the next day after we've stayed up till 2 trying to figure out where is this going. We're watching the local news. We're trying to figure out everything. National news, what is the Hurricane Center saying? What are our locals saying? And if you are in the St. Pete, Tampa area and you don't know, definitely follow Dennis Phillips, who is a long-seasoned hurricane weather meteorologist, but he specializes, I swear, in the hurricanes, because he has a set of rules for going through this process. And he is really good at sifting through fact versus sensationalism. He doesn't want you to be scared. He wants you to be prepared. The model shifted. And the model shifted ever so slightly a bit here, ever so slightly a little bit there. But a great analogy for this is, think of when you kind of like turn the wheel of your car. You're not going to notice a bunch of movement, obviously. It's not a jerk of the wheel, but it's going to slowly change the way things are going. And it shifted. And then things started going south quite literally, and the storm all of a sudden was shifting to the point that we were like, oh my gosh, we're not at the eye anymore. We're a little bit less. We're more out of the cone, which is like the direction that it's going and the path and the strongest parts of being in a hurricane is 5 to 10 miles usually outside of the eye. Well, this sucker became huge, so the area parameters became larger, but we were getting out of that area and we were like, oh my gosh. And then eventually it shifted to the point where it was so far down south over time that we were then hardly in the cone, and then we were out of the direct path. And it had moved so far south over a matter of hours that we were like, oh my God, we could be okay. So there's this weird feeling and this weird juxtaposition of emotions, because you're like relieved, but now stressed in another way, because people that you know and love have already evacuated, because they were in evacuations A, B, and C, and they went to these other places. They went down south. They went over and inland to now where it was directly going. It was moving into the path of the hurricane, trying to get out of the path of the hurricane. And again, I am not a native Floridian. I am not a meteorologist. I am not a student of any of this. I'm just someone who lives here that just went through it. And the reason I'm going into this part of the narrative, I can't believe how many people I'm seeing now on the other side of this, where we're at, shaming and mocking the victims that were hit with Hurricane Ian. And I just keep seeing when people are posting the devastation of their home, of their community, of people actually asking for help on mediums like TikTok and showing them, like I saw one woman in a pool, like in a pool you see at Target, in a floaty pool in her house because the water was, chest and neck high. Oh, I'm getting red just getting upset about it. Videoing it to just be like, my fridge is floating, my kitchen is floating, my couch is floating, send help. And people were commenting, why didn't you evacuate? And I understand that's human nature to be like, why didn't you get out? But then I saw mocking of it, and I saw people being like, hurricane's coming at you, Florida, we're not worried, please. And then 2 minutes later, please send help. This wasn't that. This wasn't, I don't know, I know that there's, how do I word it? I know there's people that do look in the eye of the hurricane or do something stupid and then they're like, I can do that. Here, hold my beer and watch this kind of vibes. I get it. But I realized through my frustration of seeing so many people mocking and shaming these victims that there's just not an understanding on a bigger level why this went down the way it went down. Because the model shifted. The hurricane moved so far south so quickly over a matter of hours. The people who were safe and were scheduled to be safe and people who evacuated to safe areas were no longer safe. They were now in the direct path of this disaster. And then the people who lived there had very little time to do anything. And yes, when you live on the coast, it's smarter and way more recommended to be prepared with shutters, be prepared with, all of the resources that you can, because we are in hurricane season. There is that vibe. And I don't feel like this wasn't that, because I saw people boarding up their houses as soon as they knew. I saw people trying to get out as soon as they could. But I also know some people can't financially do that. Maybe they don't have the resources to just up and go across the state or have somebody to take them in. A lot of people have pets and kids. I've also heard people shaming people for not going to shelters when maybe the shelters by them were either full or wouldn't allow pets and someone wasn't going to leave their pet. There's a variety of factors that I can't overcome every single argument for this. I just was so sad to see so many people shaming the victims that had hours to play with, to figure out, where do I go? What do I do? How do I board this up this quickly? Maybe they live alone and their friends or family couldn't help them, or maybe they don't have family or anyone close to them to help them put up shutters, and they thought, if a storm's coming, I'll know. There's a variety of things, and I can't speculate. So neither can we. Nobody can, But I realized there's probably a lot of misinformation about how this happened for these people, because some people I know went down south to be safe from where it was supposed to be here in Tampa, and they got hit hard. They got hit so hard, and now they can't get home, because even after the storm, even if where they, evacuated to was one of my friends went to a concrete building, amazing. She's safe, she's fine, but now she can't get home because there's so much devastation and so many roads out, so much loss, so much. They're also still telling us don't go anywhere, still shelter in place, even though the storm is over and the sun may be out, because power lines are down. We can't get to you. There's so much flooding. You don't know what roads are flooded and what roads aren't flooded, so they still can't get home. And I've done a surveillance of my neighborhood, and I've seen people's stuff still down, like their shutters are still down.
Which means they're going to have winds of about 100 to 110 miles an hour for about 2.5 hours, while the leading edge continues to move north.
It's not good. Dennis, that really looks bad.
Every time is an aerial flood advisory. A flash flood warning is when there is definite rising water.
When the hurricane did hit, it was also way more massive than they expected. Hurricane Ian became 200 miles wide. It got to a point where it was so massive, and it's just, we'd never seen something like this. This hurricane is going to be identified similarly to Hurricane Michael, Hurricane Andrew, things like that. This wasn't a small, it hit land and then it was down to a category 1. or tropical storm. This hit more like a 4, practically a 5. It was 2 miles off from being a Cat 5 hurricane. It's insane. It was so strong and so widespread, so massive. And again, that whole area knew they were safe. They weren't told it was coming their way. And the people who evacuated down there were in the eye, were in the path. And it wasn't slowing. It wasn't, once it did hit, it was insane that they kind of kept hoping that it would not slow down to sit on top of you, but weaken. They were hoping it would break apart a little bit more, but because the grounds were so wet, is what we were hearing, it was just continuing its force. Again, it's Hocus Pocus 2 day, so it feels only right to be pulling out my ColourPop Hocus Pocus palette. We're right in the area where they're like, yeah, you're in the lower part of the Tampa Bay area that you could lose power. And while power is such a low problem to be worried about, it was still a concern because, you know, I was hearing horror stories from Irma, which was a lesser storm in comparison. The people were out of power for 2 weeks. 2 weeks is a long time. It's a long time. Some people need it for medical reasons. Some people need it for work. I work remotely. I had not heard anything from my company of being like, hey, if you're hit with a hurricane, don't worry, you'll be, you'll still get a paycheck. I hadn't heard anything. Because again, I don't work for a company that lives in Florida. So it wasn't even on their minds, I don't think. We were hoping we would have minimal wind devastation because they were still predicting very, very strong winds in our area, even though we weren't going to be in necessarily the uncertainty of the cone. We were definitely still worried about our roof. We were still worried about, we have very large trees. Again, we just moved into this house 4 months ago. We have very large trees. Some of them are beautiful and they extend over parts of our home, extend over parts of our fence. And we were just looking at 3 specific large trees. And I was like, I had a little chat with these trees before the storm even got close. And I was like, listen, you are strong, you are beautiful. I need you to keep those roots going, keep those limbs long and beautiful. More rain coming and wind. Okay, getting lots of texts and the wind is going bonkers. I don't know if you can see because of we have really sturdy windows, so I'm not gonna lift them up, but there is some tree debris down here from our side trees. Some smaller branches and chunks of them. And you could definitely see more winds picking up. And we are expecting actually more winds later in the day. This is our Big Daddy tree up here. And I had a nice talk with her before the storm. I was like, you are strong, you have deep roots, you are going to stay, and all of your branches are gonna stay. Let's check over this way. Yeah, more debris on the deck. The big trees are dancing a little bit. Everything's looking saturated. Let's come over here. Again, we've already sandbagged. Not that it's gonna get that serious here, we don't think. But, no harm in hedging your bets. Oh, you can hear it. Look at those trees. The palm trees over there dancing too. Whoa. Oh, it's picking up. It's okay, Cooper. About 6 o'clock now. Oop, my camera is so smudgy. Okay, 6 o'clock, and Adam's trying to take the kids potty. Penny is not having it, but they're trying. I don't think Penny's gonna go, but she hasn't gone since like this morning. And the winds and rain are kind of coming through, but the storm is moved a little bit down even more. We're seeing that the winds are still going to be really strong in our area and projecting to go up and down, but again, that's just a guess. It's like electronics trying to guess what the weather's going to be, but the electronics and models were also predicting that the storm was going to go one way when it went a totally different way multiple times. So at this point, we were just like, I think even Dennis Phillips, the meteorologist I was just talking about, was like, sometimes you throw the models out the window and you look out the window because you can't rely on that. You just have to go with what's going on in the moment and do the best you can. And that's what a lot of us did. We could hear the winds outside. We could hear, the rustling of the trees. And Adam had already been planning ahead, my husband, if you don't watch my videos normally, to shut off the electronics and things like that as things started getting wild. And there was a point where things started to flicker. So we were like, okay, let's just shut off the internet. Because we didn't want anything to fry. We've been through enough Florida thunderstorms in this house in just a matter of 4 months to know it has fried hubs for us before as far as our electronics go, our internet goes. So we were like, let's just cut it and go off our phones. We were keeping our phones charged nonstop. Like, we just did not unplug our phones for probably 24, 48 hours just because we didn't know. And you can still lose power even after the storm because of surging trees coming down. That was the big concern a lot of people were noticing in the Tampa Bay area. And there were widespread power outages. They were already kicking off right in the beginning. So we were just like, we've heard, I think it was up to 3 million people in Florida without power by the end of this all. And by like, it just kept going up, and you expect power to go out. Again, that doesn't sound like it's the worst thing, but it can be have you ever not had power for over a week? I have. It's hard. It's rough, and I didn't work remotely then. News broadcast stations lost all power, lost all connectivity. Like, I was watching their live stream because we didn't have our internet on anymore, so I was just using my 5G on my phone while I had house power, but I didn't have internet anymore. And all of a sudden, all their stuff just wiped out. And I was like, oh, is it my stuff? I assumed it was mine. No, the news station totally lost power. Completely lost internet. They lost everything, and they were trying to get back up. And that doesn't happen. When the meteorologists and the news stations are losing power, you're like, oh, crap. Hold on to your butts. It definitely, it just, you're in this uncertainty. And when you already have anxiety, like I do, I didn't have any caffeine or anything just to prepare myself to go through such a situation, even though, we were sleep deprived. I've still not had a full night's sleep in over a week. Still not. For those of you that were asking and that are so sweet, Penny, well, my kids are fine now. Penny, Mommy is talking about you. She saw a dog walk by. How dare they? How dare they go on their afternoon walk? Penny does not do well in storms in general, so she was under the bed. Cooper was at my side the whole time. He was not going to leave Mommy's side. He is a mama's boy, and I think that's how he feels safest, but also he wants to protect me, whereas Penny's like, peace out, bitches. I'm hiding under the bed. I did put a thunder shirt on her. We call it her brave shirt. And we left sound machines going, and we were just like, that's another thing. If we lose power, we always have sound machines in our house for her, but also probably for my anxiety. I'm probably so used to it by now. I'd be like, I'm sorry, where's my white noise machine? I need it. First world problems. I know. Trust me. I'm doing a light moment in a very heavy video. And my battery is still dying, so I have to go pull out from my battery bank that we had all hidden in our safest part of the house in case things did get wild and trees were falling on our house. I gotta go get my backup battery that works for this out of here. Hold on. So it did get to a point where we were like, okay, that we were trying to like not stress as much. When we had the internet off, we just decided that we were gonna even just kind of like play a game, just Adam and I, just playing a card game just to kind of get our minds off of it, because all we were doing was waiting for winds and rain to come. So we were doing the best that we could. So to try to like de-escalate our nerves, we played a serial killer game. Maybe it was actually really fun, but I could see how you're like, how is that not anxiety inducing? Come on, we listened to podcasts about serial killers for fun. So we played a card game about serial killers. It was fictitious, but a game. So it was fun. Ish. As fun as it can be when you're learning a new game in a tropical storm that's going to be a hurricane. It's all the things. It's all the things. We didn't know if we were going to be getting category wins or anything like that. So we played one round, and then we turned the news back on, and that's when we were like, okay, it's going to be progressive from here. So at that point, we were just glued to our phones and the news and just watching everything that we could. Checking in with people too. We were checking in with, we have family down south that we were checking in on. We have family in our area that we were checking on. We're like, do you still have power? How are you doing? How are your neighbors doing? The amount of texting you end up doing during a tropical storm and a hurricane and national disasters and anything else was just, it's so much of keeping people updated of how you're doing, how they're doing. I have to stop for a second and say to the people that reached out to me that only watch my videos and don't know me in person, saying, Nicole, I live within so many radius of you. Before this all hit down, you were like, come to my house. I will take care of you. I was so humbled, and I thank you. Thank you for being a good human, and thank you for trying to, you've never even met me. You've seen my videos, but you've never met me. So the amount of love that I felt when this was coming, even though I'm newer to the area, was so sweet. And those people who were so sweet ended up being in the eye of the storm. So it's just like, you just don't know. So you just don't know. And so I was checking on them. And I was like, are you okay? How are you doing? How's your family faring? And there's been a lot of messaging, even just with my friends here on my channel that don't really know me and I don't really know them, checking in on each other that way. We knew we were going to be in this until about 2:30 in the morning at how slow this thing was going. It was a slow fatty. Slow fatty. And I hope I hurt Ian Hurricane's feelings because he's an ass. And it was dark. And once it gets dark, that's when you already get more of the nighttime scaries, the anxiety, and just life in general. So knowing it was going to be hitting our area when we couldn't see much was pretty stressful. And then it got to a point that it was all dark out. I don't know what I was saying to Adam, but I was looking over at him and we heard a loud ba-dump, like the loudest ba-dump we had heard. And I was like, oh shit, what was that? What was that? So Adam gets up because he's like, I'm going to calm her down. So I'm going to go look. And he's like, it's just a branch from a tree. It's okay. And then of course I had to go look when he was in the bathroom because I had to know. We were so grateful to feel like we were going to bed with power. Like, we could not believe we'd still have our sound machines on because hearing the winds, I wasn't going to sleep at all. Hearing the thudding, knowing Penny would be having anxiety, I would be having anxiety. I already have auditory things where if I hear something, I jump. So I was so grateful to still have power because a lot of our neighboring area did not have power. Didn't have power at all. Even in our own community, even in St. Pete, even in Tampa, widespread power outages, and the numbers were increasing. So we're like, if we wake up without power, we know everything is charged. We've done everything we can. We couldn't believe that we still woke up with power. So grateful to have air conditioning and sound machines and full batteries for our phones to keep connected with other people. So grateful. The next day, it was still in the state. We were kind of hoping it would have moved its way out. But like the bay the day before had been drained. Like the bay was empty because the hurricane had just pulled it out. And that's something that you probably didn't know even happened if you don't live in an area that experiences stuff like this. But it's pretty wicked. But then the next day, what you worry about is surging. You worry about flooding because the water has to come back. And now there's an excess of water out there. So this was a rainmaker too. So then you have to worry about surging waters and more power outages. You have to worry about more lines coming down because the trees are now in such saturated grounds. We were also still really getting a lot of gusts because the next day we were like, let's go assess the damage. But Adam went out first to take the dogs potty or try to get them to go potty. Penny was still having none of it. And the winds were still really whipping and things like that. So it was a lot of like waiting till about midday to be able to kind of like go out into our subdivision, into our community and see what had actually happened outside of just our small little house, our small area, our small space in this whole big mess. Some houses got hit worse than others, even in my own area. So I feel so grateful because there are people that did lose power right across the street, right down the road. You know, like, you can't assume anything with these types of things. And Mother Nature isn't going to tell you why or when. She's just going to do it. So that's why I'm just like, I feel like I had to make this video because, again, I just kept seeing so much misunderstanding is what I'm going to refer to it as, because that's what I want to think it is. I want to think people just don't understand what's going on instead of wanting to shame people that just lost everything, some things, going through their own feelings about going through something traumatic like this. I want to assume, and I'm not thinking any of y'all are doing that, because you know why? Because the community we have built here is amazing and so kind. Like I've said, I've never had to even stress about my comment section, really, because y'all are probably some of the nicest people, some of the most warm people, open-minded. Even if we are just talking about makeup, there's always another side to the coin. You're not just trying to be like, you did it wrong, or this is that. It's like I said, people have just never met me or like come to my house. I live in Orlando. I will keep you safe. And then they ended up in the line of fire. Like, it's just crazy. So I'm just so grateful for this community. And that's why I'm like, I know it's not y'all. I know it's not you. I just felt like, again, the algorithm may push this down because I'm talking about a natural disaster, and YouTube does not like when you talk about natural disasters. It doesn't like when you talk about anything in the news. But I wanted to make this, so I don't know if anyone will ever see it. I don't know. You may not, even if you watch my videos all the time, you may never see this video. Yesterday, I think I spent 6-7 hours cleaning up debris. Even though we weren't like hit, we still had 6-7 hours of cleanup to do. And we're not even really done yet, honestly. But the way I process stressful moments, like I said, is through vlogging and creative things, or through putting together ideas. So that's what I did yesterday too, while we were assessing what our neighborhood looked like, assessing what our home looked like, and then us cleaning it up. I was so grateful just to have to clean up my house. Can I just tell you, I was so grateful and so amped and ready to just put my home back together again in the small way that I needed to, compared to anyone else. I'm just like, I'm just picking up my debris, not because I knew it could be so much worse, but also I'm just so grateful. So grateful. And just thinking of my friends down south and, messaging them going, what do you need? What can I do? I'm sure by now, especially by the time this video goes up, there's going to be things you can watch, things you can catch up on to, donate and do what you can. And again, this is going to be considered one of those hurricanes that just was massive. My Roomba is just now going off, so if you're hearing more noise, I'm not turning that off because we've been living in this house for a while and pacing the floors. So I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut this video off soon, but I'm at the end anyway. But I did take some time to really showcase what the aftermath looked like for us too. So yeah, that's kind of like my spiel, my hot take on the events of what's gone on and why you're not getting a real video. And yes, I have still chatted enough and probably shown enough footage that to me it's still going to feel like, girl, you still did a full video saying you're not really going to do a video. But I think you feel where I'm coming from. This isn't my normal content. This is likely going to be suppressed by YouTube, but that's what I'm doing today. I know a lot of you guys are still going through this yourself, and Hurricane Ian is such a dick that he has also decided to reform as another category 1 or 2 hurricane at the moment. I apologize for not being more informed, but after so many hours of a week of prep, no sleep, I am a little delirious. But I know it's reformed as another hurricane to hit Georgia and the Carolinas, and goodness knows even where that track is going to go. Does anybody else also feel like they have a little bit more of their own personal power back when they do something for themselves that makes them feel like that bad bitch or something? Like, that's why another reason I wanted to do makeup today. I've not had on makeup throughout this entire process. As you've seen through this video when I was filming clips, and I feel like anytime I'm filming a vlog where I'm processing my feelings, y'all don't see me with makeup on. It's a little bit more of a vulnerable state for me on a lot of levels because I do have a beauty channel. This isn't a vlog channel, but as I'm processing my life and as things are evolving and changing, this is how I love to process my own. I process stress through creativity, and this is what I wanted to do. Every night I ask Adam, what was the best part of your day? And I really try to focus on my gratitudes every single day. Because I like starting my day with gratitude and ending my day with gratitude. And I haven't talked about that in a while. I've talked about it before on my channel, but not recently. And so far, all of our family and friends that were either evacuated down south or inland are all okay. All of our family that has homes in the areas that were impacted are doing okay, and I'm just so grateful for that. And I'm grateful that you watched this video if you have. And I'm grateful to be able to have this outlet even when this isn't maybe my normal form of content. We'll get back to the makeup videos very soon, guys. Obviously, I didn't get to paint my beauty room like I had told you in my last video that I was hoping to be able to do this week because obvious reasons. If you're not seeing this video for months after because YouTube has suppressed it and you just happened upon it, thanks for still watching it, even though it's not maybe relevant or, again, normally what you'd see from me. Also, just to give you a little bit more makeup information in this non-video video, it is the last day of the month. And I'm sitting here. I'll just show you what I'm looking at. I've been vlogging all week. I may as well show you this too because it does affect my channel, especially when you love my BoxyCharm videos. But I am pretty sure, pulling out my phone here, I am going to be canceling my paid for subscription today. Right now, I just have the base active. I have already stopped my Luxe and Premiums. I do still get PR for the base and Luxe boxes at this moment. So I'm not going to feel like I have missed out because I've been getting repetitive boxes for months now. And that's really my decision on this. So I thought it's the last day of the month. It is. I'm already filming this video. I may as well let you know. I've been thinking about this for a while. I haven't even made my choice item for October because that's how strongly I have been thinking about this. So I think costing too much. I'm not getting any joy out of it. I'm getting repetitive boxes. So I'll still be doing BoxyCharm videos. Still will be. I'm just not going to keep spending 30 bucks a month on it when prices are going to be going up again for the new shipping. It's going up $1 or whatever. Pretty much taking this up to about 30 bucks. And I want to be able to start putting more things that I want to put on my channel. Go buy more things I want to do. Save the money, but I'm still going to be reviewing BoxyCharm. So you will still get some, just not my paid for boxes. Thank you guys so much for watching, for hanging out with me through this, and for getting me through it. Because that's what this video did. That's what you guys did in my Instagram and messaging me and checking in on me. I'm good. Adam is good. Penny is good. Cooper is good. We are so grateful. So, so grateful. So thanks for going through this with me. I love you guys so much. You keep me sane. Even in ways you don't know, you keep me sane. So I love you guys. See you next time. Bye.